In the dusty year of 1881, Colorado stood at a strange crossroads. The railroads had carved their way through the mountains, saloons lined the streets of boom towns, and justice often came quicker from a mob's rope than from a judge's gavel. It was an era that gave birth to legends, gunfighters, stagecoach robbers, and saloon keepers whose names were whispered with either admiration or fear. And yet, somewhere along the way, a peculiar tale began to take shape. It was the tale of the so-called sisters who served more than beer. The story has been passed around in fragments, wrapped in smoke and exaggeration, the kind of yarn one might hear in a mining camp after a long night of whiskey. Some swore these sisters were saloon owners who offered more than drinks to the men who staggered through their swinging doors. Others said they were outlaws in disguise, hiding behind lace and laughter while running a crooked game in the back room. But when we turn to the record books, the newspapers, the official accounts of 1881 Colorado, not a single shred of evidence places such sisters in the thick of crime. The truth, it seems, is much less dramatic. There were sisters in Colorado at that time, but they were not gunslinging outlaws or proprietors of a den of sin. In fact, history remembers 5 beer sisters, women who were remarkable in their own right, but for very different reasons. They settled in Colorado Springs in the early 1900s, decades after the so-called grim year of 1881. Industrious and determined, they built up a thriving dairy farm, providing milk to a growing city. Their story is one of hard work and quiet success, not of scandal and bloodshed. Yet the wordplay of their name, Beers So Close to Beer, was enough for storytellers to twist into something far darker when crafting their tales of the Old West. Colorado in 1881 did not lack for grim events, though. Far from it. That same year, a stagecoach robbery near Del Norte ended with the capture of 2 outlaws. The people of the town, tired of watching bandits terrorize travelers, decided they would not wait for the wheels of justice to turn. A mob stormed the jailhouse, dragged the prisoners out into the cold night, and lynched them from a tree. The law stood powerless against the anger of the people, and justice, if one could call it that, was carried out swiftly and brutally. Another story that reached far beyond the mountain towns of Colorado was the case of Thomas McBratney. He had killed another white man on Ute tribal land, and his case sparked an important question. Who had the right to prosecute such a crime? Did the federal government because it happened on a reservation, or did the state of Colorado because both men were not native? The issue wound its way all the way to the Supreme Court of the United States, which in 1881 delivered its verdict in United States versus McBratney. The court ruled that when crimes involved only non-natives on native land, the state had the authority. That decision changed the way justice was handled across the West, a ruling born out of a single violent act. Meanwhile, in the mining towns, women did play memorable roles. Some, like Belle Starr, the so-called bandit queen, captured headlines with their daring and defiance of the law. Others, like the madams of Leadville and Cripple Creek, ran brothels and boarding houses where fortunes were won and lost, but none of them were a pair of sisters in Colorado in 1881, despite what the old tales might say. The closest truth we have is that women in the Wild West often found survival in unconventional ways, running saloons, operating dance halls, or even taking part in smuggling, but they did not match the sensationalized legend of the sisters who served more than beer, and so the story remains a ghost, a half-truth born from wordplay, Wild West atmosphere, and the ever-hungry appetite for scandal. It tells us more about the way we remember history than about history itself. The true events of 1881 Colorado were already dark enough. Mobs dispensing death without trial, the nation's highest court redefining law on native lands, and outlaws finding their last breath under the noose. Against that backdrop, the legend of the sisters lingers only as an invention, a reminder that the Wild West was not only made of guns and grit, but also of stories, stretched and twisted to thrill an audience hungry for shadows. So when you hear the phrase, the sisters who served more than beer, know that it belongs to the world of tales, rather than the world of facts. It is not the record of real women in Colorado in 1881, but rather the echo of a storyteller's imagination, blending truth with myth in the way the Old West has always done. For in the end, the West was never just about what happened, it was about the stories people chose to tell and the legends that refused to die.